Children adjust very well where the divorce is amicable, but the problems arise when children face parents manipulating or brainwashing them. Today we have a special episode on Global Parents' Day. I have with us Dr. Rakesh Kapoor, who is an expert where children's mental health is concerned, and he's an advocate for children's rights. So, mindfulness says that children adjust very well where the divorce is amicable, but the problems arise when children face parents manipulating or brainwashing them.
You're absolutely right, Rageshwariji. In fact, research from all across the world tells us that it is not actually the divorce which causes the problem, but in fact, when parents practice shared parenting after divorce, the outcomes in children are almost as good as those in the intact family. Right?
Wow.
But unfortunately, in a large percentage of cases, we see what you spoke about of manipulation of the child or tutoring of the child, which is what is known as parental alienation, which causes significant and serious amount of damage to the child. Truthfully, let's try and understand, without getting into too much psychiatric terms, into really what is going on in the mind of the child who's being alienated. The first thing that is going on is that there is a huge amount of internalization of hatred. Every time we hate somebody or we try, and that is what an alienating parent tends to do, to instill hate. But every time we hate somebody else, a large part of that hatred comes inside us and it resides within us. The second thing which is happening in the child's mind is very sadly that the child feels rejected, because what an alienating parent does is, in a way, every time the child, let's say the targeted parent sends a gift or a phone call, the child is told that no such phone call or gift ever came. So the child feels that out of everybody else in the world, I have been rejected even by my own parent, which is a very traumatic feeling for the child, which leads to very low level of confidence levels. And when we look at the hatred that the person or the child has internalized, that, as psychologists call it, is basically low self-esteem, which is self-hatred, loathing of self, not feeling that I'm good enough. And the third thing which happens in the mind of the child is the guilt of two reasons. One is because the child knows that it is not treating that parent well. And secondly, in the future, when the child gets to find out or finds out that yes, that she or he has been manipulated, it leads to serious amount of trauma. The child starts feeling that as if I have been lied to my entire life. And that is what Dr. Amy Baker in her research found, that these children who grow up, and she interviewed hundreds of such children who grew up, and she found that not only they suffer from very low self-esteem, extremely poor amount of confidence levels, they in fact cannot maintain or build relationships, so their divorce rates go up, and unfortunately they tend to get alienated themselves from the children because they don't have any trust in anybody, right?
That's true. But and the associations and relationships,
absolutely.
My goodness. It's almost like our ancient wisdom knew this, because Panchatantra, how beautifully says that the blueprint of your life is created in the early childhood years. So it's true that a child is half of mommy and half of daddy. So when we bring down the other parent, the child almost takes this personally. So would you agree that, the best thing you can do for your child is love your spouse? And if you choose to get divorced or separate, God forbid, if you choose to do that, at least respect your spouse. Would you agree with that?
I completely second that. And in fact, I would just like to add, the choice is there for every parent. Do you love your child more or do you hate your spouse more? That's a choice you always have.